Hi, and welcome to our 8th mental chat. It's been a while. Many things have happened since my last podcast on psychotropic medications. That episode was so shocking to me, it took me a while to recover. If you haven't listened to it yet, don't miss it. It's episode 7. Are we all chemically imbalanced? But today, I really need to clarify something that is driving me mad. And this is the difference between psychologists, psychotherapists, counselors, psychiatrists, and other professionals. Because I've noticed that the confusion among people is huge, and that many so-called professionals unfortunately spread misinformation. So if you are confused, not sure, or you just want clarification, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Alice. I'm the clinical director of Crossroads Psychology. With over 20 years of experience, I've helped hundreds of people improve their lives. And this is the first podcast to show you how to apply the principles of scientifically proven psychological models such as CBT, mindfulness, and ACT to get unstuck. Because change starts from within. You're listening to the Mental Chats podcast. Welcome back. So, who is who and who does what in the mental health field? There are so many players in the mental or personal growth arena that people are bombarded with information and pulled in many different directions. Not great for finding your path and your guide, is it? No wonder people are lost and confused. So I will do my best to be impartial and to give you an overview of the different professionals that you might come across when embarking on a personal growth journey. In short, we will talk about the difference between psychologists, clinical and counseling psychologists, psychotherapists, counselors, which are not the same as counseling psychologists, psychiatrists, coaches, and spiritual guides. I'll try to be as brief and as accurate as possible to explain them at the best of my knowledge and my abilities. But I am a human being, so I do apologize in advance if some people will feel hurt or offended. This is just my understanding and considerations after over 20 years of work in the mental health/personal growth field. So let's start with what I'm most familiar with, psychologists. Now, depending on where you are in the world, the path to become a recognized psychologist varies. But in the UK, usually psychologists have done a 3 years bachelor degree in psychology, often followed by a master degree in psychology or comparable professional experience, and a 3-year professional doctorate in either clinical or counseling psychology. My understanding is the main difference between a clinical and a counseling psychology doctorate is that the clinical psychology doctorate is mainly CBT focused and is funded by the National Health Service. The supervised practice part of the training is also done within the NHS. While a counseling psychology doctorate is usually self-funded and the supervised practice is done privately or in third sector organizations. The models of therapy studied used to vary quite a bit, with counseling psychology doctorate being more psychodynamically oriented than clinical, but nowadays both pathways have a strong CBT component. Either way, these are people that have invested 8-9 years of their life studying and practicing psychology before even starting to practice independently. They also have continual professional development requirements to stay on top of the development in the field, and they need to follow a code of conduct to ensure integrity. The first myth I need to bust here is that it is not true that psychologists do not provide therapy, as they're not psychotherapists. It's quite the opposite, in fact, in the UK at least. Usually, psychologists can provide therapy in a number of therapeutic models. They also provide counseling and coaching, and we will see the difference later. Psychologists treat all mental health difficulties, new or long-standing, and can also help you with adjustment to current circumstances or explore personal growth through skill training, goal setting, and problem solving. You want to think to the psychology as your head off, as your lead, as it is the professional with the most training in the field. You recognize a psychologist in the UK as they are registered with the Health and Care Profession Council, or HCPC. Psychologists are doctors in psychology, and psychologist is a protected title. It is illegal to call yourself a psychologist if you're not HCPC registered in the UK. Yes, but what about psychotherapists, you might ask? So psychotherapists follow a different pathway to becoming qualified. Usually they need to have undertaken a 3 years undergraduate degree, but this can be in any field, not just psychology. This is not always mandatory too. They need to have completed some form of counseling qualification and or have experience in working with people or of personal therapy to gain access to a psychotherapy course. Obviously, entry requirement for a psychotherapy diploma or a master will vary depending with the organization. So if you are a psychotherapist and you've done a different path, bear in mind that there are variations. All recognized psychotherapists, though, have completed a psychotherapy course, either full-time or part-time, with supervised practice elements to it. The psychotherapy course is usually focused on one model of therapy only. So while psychologists are trained in a number of therapeutic modalities, psychotherapists focus on one modality and its development. They also have to complete continued professional development, so they might expand to other modalities with time, and they need to follow a code of conduct. Psychotherapists are not doctors, and psychotherapist is not a protected title in the UK. This means that anybody can call themselves a psychotherapist in the UK, no matter the training. So when choosing a psychotherapist, please make sure they are accredited with a reputable psychotherapy body, such as BACP, UKCP, BABCP, depending on the modality. These organizations will make sure that the person you're choosing has the relevant training. And now let's look at counselors. Regardless of what some people might say, counselors do not provide psychotherapy. Counselors give counseling. But what's the difference, you might ask? Good question, because the terms counseling and therapy are often used interchangeably for simplicity, from which the confusion, but there are some differences. Therapy aims to change long-standing complex pattern of thoughts and behaviors, involve deep exploration of traumas, of personal development, and of individual personality, all to create profound understanding and change in the here and now. Have you ever found that the same problem or situation keeps repeating over and over again? Therapy looks at these patterns and how you can change them by changing what you do or some core beliefs that are unhelpful to your personal growth. Therapy also treats underlying mental health difficulties such as depression, panic, OCD, trauma, all the anxiety disorder, personality issue, bipolar, and all the mental health difficulties found in the DSM. Counseling, on the contrary, mainly addresses specific current issues. It focuses on addressing difficult situations and developing skills in the present. If you've been made redundant, for example, going through a divorce, if you've been diagnosed with a difficult illness, counseling provides a safe and compassionate space when you can reflect on the change, when you can see things from a different perspective and learn the skill to adjust your life accordingly. in the UK, you will often find counselor working in a cancer or bereavement service, for example. Like psychotherapists, counselors' approach can vary depending on the model of therapy they use. People do not need any previous training to do a counseling course and then can qualify with a level 4 counseling diploma in the UK, which often is a prerequisite to access a psychotherapy course. Again, counselor is not a protected title, so anybody can call themselves a counselor or saying they do counseling. So please check with the BACP, the UKCP, that your counselor has the minimum training standard required to register. For a more specific distinction between counseling and psychotherapy, I will put a link in the episode note. But one thing I want to address though is that it is not true that you need a counselor permission or a counselor referral to see a psychotherapist or a psychologist. This is something someone told me, a counselor told him, and it is shocking and just not true. You can choose freely based on your needs and circumstances, and you can always change therapist or type of therapist if you do not see the progress in the first few months. Another myth I want to bust is that you need a psychiatrist referral to see a psychologist, a psychotherapist, or a counselor. You don't, not in the UK at least. Yes, you will need to see a GP if you want to access the public health service, and probably also if you want to use your private health insurance, but not always. Nowadays, many services accept self-referrals. Psychiatrists are medical doctors. They study the lungs, the kidney, and the brain. They follow this with a 3-year psychiatric qualification focused on neurology, psychology, and pharmacology, but usually they do not provide therapy unless they have also completed a psychotherapy course on top of that. You will need to see a psychiatrist if you want to discuss starting or stopping medications, or if you need an official diagnosis for some reason. I will leave a link on psychiatrists in the episode notes as well. Now, I need to address a profession I'm quite conflicted about, and that is the coach. The term coach comes from the sport field and from the educational field before that. The idea is that someone who is an expert at something trains others in something they have mastered in their own life. So an ex-footballer, for example, becomes a football coach, coaching the next generation of football players. The coach is the expert by experience, and that's totally fine. If you have 20 years of experience in running successful businesses, please come and be my business coach. And there are other type of coaches like marketing coach, executive coach, where if you have extensive experience, please pass it on. But the life coach or mental health coach, I'll be honest with you, I'm really struggling here. So I had a look at the life and mental health coaching courses available out there. Often, the only entry requirements are to be over 18 with a good level of English and a passion for helping people. Also, the subjects studied include basic counseling skills such as active listening, some rudiments of psychology such as setting goals and value work and thought challenging and mental health awareness, and a strong marketing and business component. And look, before you jump to leave me a nasty comment, I haven't looked at all the coaching courses available out there. So there might be some that are better than others. And I do completely understand the desire to help people, especially if you too have struggled with trauma or mental health issue. So I am sorry if someone will feel upset by this. But unfortunately, what I see over and over again is that many coaches are charging double the price of a qualified psychologist and promising to treat conditions that they are not qualified to treat. And that is scary to me because I have a duty of care. I had clients ruined by uncareful handling of emotional difficulties and traumas. So yes, absolutely, tell your story, share your lived experience. You can help others by campaigning, advocating, raising awareness so that people that follow you feel encouraged to get in contact with a professional. Or you can become a true professional with an accredited, recognized counseling, psychotherapy, or psychology course. But no, having lived does not mean you can coach others, even with the course. Having survived trauma or abuse does not mean you can treat it without the proper training. I'm sorry, but that's just how I feel. Psychology is a regulated profession for a reason, and that reason is that people's lives are at stake. So think about that before choosing a course or a professional to work with. And now I want to talk about the spiritual guide. Spiritual guides are just not mental health professionals, so don't expect to cure anxiety with them. It might indirectly help, sure, as spiritual growth is still personal growth. But a spiritual guide will or should guide you spiritually, energetically, religiously, based on the religion or spiritual belief they adhere to. And if you're so inclined, please go ahead. Mainstream psychology is missing the spiritual element to it, even though transactional psychology explores just that. The overlap between mental health and spiritual awakening, which is a fascinating field if you ask me. Just be careful though, religion and spirituality have been exploited for centuries, and it is full of fake gurus, extremists, and dogmatic sects out there. Your judgment and values always come before the opinion of any religious or spiritual guru. If something doesn't agree with you, it doesn't agree with you. So you might need to look elsewhere for the answer you seek. If instead it resonates, this might be a nice addition to your life. And this concludes our 8th mental chat. You now know who is who and who does what in the mental health personal growth field. I hope this podcast will be of help to you to make informed choice for your life and your self-care. Share it with anybody you want to help on their journey. And I'll see you next time. Bye. If you like this podcast, please leave us a review and share it with friends and family. This will help us to reach more people and improve more lives. You can also follow crossroads.psychology.uk on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. And because mastering scientifically proven psychological techniques is the most effective and fastest way to overcome the stress, anxiety, and depression stopping you from creating the life you want to live, please have a look at our free resources on the courses page of our website, crossroadspsychology.co.uk. Let me know your thoughts by tagging Crossroad Psychology on your socials. I'll see you online. Till next time, bye.